The first time I noticed something strange about my neighbor was the night my tomatoes started glowing. Now, that probably sounds like the start of a bad joke. Trust me, I thought the same thing at the time. I lived on the outskirts of a quiet town surrounded by farmland and dusty roads. My house sat alone at the end of a long gravel driveway, with only one neighbor within shouting distance, a woman who had moved into the old farmhouse next door about 6 months earlier. Her name, she said, was Lena. She kept to herself mostly. No visitors. No loud music. No late-night parties. Just quiet mornings and evenings tending to her own garden. At first, I figured she was just another person trying to escape city life. Honestly, I respected that. But then weird things started happening. The first thing was the tomatoes. One night, I stepped outside with a flashlight after hearing rustling in my backyard. Raccoons were always stealing vegetables, so I expected to chase one away. Instead, I saw a faint blue glow coming from the garden beds. I froze. My tomatoes were glowing. Not brightly, but enough that I could see the plants clearly under the moonlight. Each tomato pulsed with a soft blue shimmer like tiny lanterns. I blinked. Okay, that's new, I muttered. I stepped closer, and that's when I heard the voice. Please don't touch those. I nearly jumped out of my skin. Someone was standing behind me. I turned around, flashlight swinging wildly. It landed on Lena. She stood just a few feet away at the edge of my garden, her dark hair tied back, wearing a simple gray jacket. Her expression looked calm, but her eyes were watching me very carefully. Oh, Lena, I said, lowering the flashlight. You scared the hell out of me. Sorry, she said quietly. I pointed toward the glowing tomatoes. Care to explain why my vegetables look like they belong in a science experiment? For a moment, she didn't answer. Then she sighed. I was hoping you would notice. That was not the response I expected. Not notice. I said, they're glowing. Yes. We stood there in awkward silence. Finally, I folded my arms. Okay. Either you explain what's happening in my garden, or I call someone who will. Her eyes flicked toward the house, then the road, then the dark fields around us. She looked worried, really worried. Please, she said quietly, don't call anyone. That made me pause. There was something in her voice. Not anger, not fear exactly, desperation. I didn't mean to cause problems, she continued. I just needed somewhere safe to grow them. Grow what? I asked. She hesitated again. Then she said the most ridiculous sentence I'd ever heard in my life. They're not tomatoes. I stared at her. They're nutrient stabilizers for my biology. Your biology? Yes. I rubbed my face. Lena, are you telling me you're allergic to normal vegetables or something? She shook her head slowly. No, she said. Then she pointed up, not toward the sky generally, toward the stars. I'm not from here. I laughed. I couldn't help it. I mean, sure, I said. Next you'll tell me you're an alien. She didn't laugh. She just looked at me, completely serious. The laughter slowly died in my throat. Oh, I said weakly. She nodded once. Yes. The next 10 minutes were the strangest conversation of my entire life. We sat on overturned buckets beside my glowing garden while Lena explained. According to her, she wasn't human. She belonged to a species called the Valari, a civilization that traveled between star systems using technology centuries ahead of ours. Her people were explorers, scientists, observers. But something had gone wrong. Very wrong. I wasn't supposed to be here, she admitted. Her ship had been attacked near Earth by another alien faction, one she described as a militaristic empire that hunted smaller civilizations and anyone who opposed them. Her vessel was damaged during the escape. She crash-landed on Earth. Alone. And you chose my town? I asked. It wasn't exactly planned, she said with a small smile. The ship chose the safest landing zone available. That apparently meant the empty fields near my property. After hiding the wreckage in the woods, she had taken on a human disguise using advanced bioadaptive technology. The glowing tomatoes were actually plants engineered to produce nutrients compatible with her alien physiology. Without them, I get very sick, she said. I stared at the garden again. So those glowing things are basically alien vitamins. Essentially. I leaned back on the bucket. Okay, I said slowly. Let's assume for a moment that I believe you. She looked relieved. But that raises another question. Yes. Why are you sneaking around my garden in the middle of the night? Her shoulders tensed. Because they found me. The temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Who found you? The ones who destroyed my ship. A cold knot formed in my stomach. You mean the alien empire people? Yes. And they're coming here? She nodded. They tracked the crash signal. I looked out across the quiet fields surrounding our houses. Everything looked normal, peaceful, but suddenly that peace felt fragile. How long do we have? I asked. Her answer was immediate. Hours. A panic would have been a reasonable reaction. Instead, I felt something else. Anger. I had lived in this quiet place my whole life. My parents built the house. My grandfather planted half the trees around the property. Now some interstellar war wanted to land on my lawn? Not happening. So, what's the plan? I asked. Lena blinked. You're helping me? I shrugged. Well, yeah. If hostile aliens show up, I'm pretty sure that's bad for everyone. She studied my face like she couldn't quite believe it. You understand they may destroy everything here to find me. Yeah, I said. Then why would you risk it? I stood up and stretched. Because I said simply, this is Earth. She tilted her head. And around here, I continued, we don't let bullies chase people out of their homes. Something in her expression changed. Respect, maybe. Then we must prepare, she said. The next few hours were chaos. Lena led me into the woods behind her farmhouse, where the remains of her spacecraft were hidden beneath camouflage panels. Up close, it was incredible. The ship looked like something grown rather than built, smooth metallic curves with glowing lines running across the surface. But half of it was burned and torn open. They hit us with plasma cannons, she explained. Us. My crew. My stomach sank. You were the only survivor? She nodded quietly. We climbed inside. Even damaged, the ship was filled with technology one could barely comprehend. Floating holographic displays. Weapons mounted in strange organic shapes. What still works? I asked. Some defense systems, she said. And a short-range shield generator. That's good. It won't last long against a military vessel. Still better than nothing. She looked at me again. You're surprisingly calm about this. I grinned. Honestly, this beats my normal Tuesday. For the first time that night, she laughed. A soft, genuine laugh. Then alarms started blaring inside the ship. Her face turned serious instantly. They're here. The sky split open. That's the only way I can describe it. A massive black ship appeared above the clouds, descending silently like a predator. Even miles away, it blocked out the stars. That's big, I said. Yes, Lena replied grimly. A beam of light scanned the ground, searching. Once they detect my biological signature, she said, they will deploy hunters. So we stop them before that happens. How? I pointed toward the ship's weapons console. You said some of those still work. She followed my gaze. You want to attack them? Well, yeah. She hesitated. That ship is designed for war. And humans, I said, we're pretty good at fighting when someone picks the wrong planet. Something fierce lit up in her eyes. Then let's show them. The first shot from Lena's ship lit up the sky like lightning. A beam of blue energy struck the underside of the alien cruiser. For a moment, nothing happened. Then explosions rippled across its hull. Direct hit, I shouted. The cruiser responded instantly. Dozens of smaller fighter craft launched toward the forest. They're deploying hunters, Lena said. Good, I said. Good. Means they're coming to us. I grabbed one of the alien weapons mounted near the hatch. It looked like a rifle made of liquid metal. Do you even know how to use that? She asked. I shrugged. How hard can it be? The first hunter landed 30 seconds later. Tall. Armored. Definitely not friendly. It stepped through the trees, scanning the area. I stepped out from behind the ship. Hey! I shouted. The alien turned toward me. Wrong planet, buddy. I pulled the trigger. The weapon fired with a thunderous pulse. The hunter disappeared in a flash of blue light. I stared at the rifle. Okay, I said. That's awesome. More hunters emerged from the forest. Lena joined me, firing with precise accuracy. Together we held the line near the crashed ship. Blasts of alien energy lit the night. Trees exploded. The ground shook. But we didn't back down, because this was our ground. And humans don't surrender easily. After what felt like hours, the last hunter fell. The forest went quiet again. Above us, the cruiser hovered, damaged, but still intact. They'll send more, Lena said. Not if we end this. I pointed toward the ship's main weapon core. You said it still works? Barely. Good enough. She understood immediately. If we overload the reactor and launch the core, it'll explode right next to their ship. She looked at me. That explosion will destroy this area. Then we make sure we're not here when it happens. She smiled faintly. You're very reckless. Occupational hazard. Together we set the reactor to overload. Then we ran. We barely reached the hillside overlooking the forest when the explosion came. A star erupted from the trees. The shockwave knocked us to the ground. Above us, the alien cruiser split apart like shattered glass. Burning fragments rained down across the sky. Silence returned. Slowly, Lena sat up. They're gone, she whispered. I lay on my back staring at the stars. Well, I said, that was a weird night. She laughed softly. You saved my life. Nah, I said. Just protecting the neighborhood. She looked at the sky where the enemy ship had vanished. My people will come searching eventually. You're welcome to stay until then. You mean that? Sure, I said. Earth could use more neighbors who grow glowing vegetables. She smiled. And for the first time since crashing on our planet, the alien on the run looked like she had finally found a place to belong. Sometimes humanity's greatest strength isn't technology or weapons. It's something simpler. If someone threatens our home, we stand our ground, together. And if aliens come looking for trouble, well, they'd better be ready for humans.